The cross-examination of Sean Diddy Combs' ex-assistant is now underway in the music mogul's sex trafficking racketeering trial. Mia, who is testifying under a pseudonym, claims that Combs verbally, physically, and sexually abused her while she worked for him. Now, there were several tense moments in court already today as the defense grilled Mia about some of the texts she sent Combs expressing her love and support for him. Combs' attorneys also pressed Mia about a message she sent to him saying that she was thinking about Combs after she was in a nightmare that she had and apparently saved her in that dream.
Yeah, she claimed that she had a dream that she was stuck in an elevator with R. Kelly and that Combs came to save her. The jury was also shown a video for Mia made by Combs telling him, quote, "I love you, happy birthday." She's also seen blowing him a kiss in a video. The defense claims that the footage shows Mia as presenting a false persona to the jury. Combs has pleaded not guilty and faces up to life in prison if he is convicted on all counts. Here to discuss is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mark O'Mara. Mark, the judge had warned defense attorneys not to ask argumentative questions, especially ones that the defense apparently knows will likely get struck from the record. I wonder if you think the jury, with some of their questions here, are potentially harming their case with the jury.
I think you're right, Boris. You have to be very careful. We still have a person identified as a victim, a female victim of this ongoing coercion, abuse, whatever they believe from what she is saying. And when defense attorneys, we're doing what we're supposed to do and we're zealous advocates, but you got to play it in context of how those 12 people are looking at this woman who's saying she was abused, and the arrogance, the questioning in a sort of aggressive way may not play very well to the jury. I think they need to be more careful and use a scalpel more than sort of an axe.
So in using that scalpel, Mark, what are they ultimately trying to accomplish, specifically with Mia as a witness? And what have you seen so far that tells you whether or not they're actually on that path?
Well, they have to prove, the defense has to prove this is just, it's an ongoing relationship. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, there was some fights. Yes, there was some arguments. Obviously, Mr. Combs has a much higher financial status and business status, but that it does not reach the level that the prosecution has to get that jury to, which is this duress and coercion to get him to sex trafficking and the RICO. And I think that's where that scalpel comes in. Yes, you can still chew away at her and make this more normalized than aggressive.
So, Mark, there's a lot riding then on these expert witnesses to explain to the jury the complicated dynamic. On one hand, you have someone who is sending these videos, blowing Sean Combs a kiss and wishing him happy birthday, and on the other hand, her describing violent assault, sexual assault, and making claims that paint their relationship in a very different light. I wonder what you make of what the prosecution is relying on those expert witnesses to do.
They have to get across those nuances. We know in the world of sex victimology, the way, and it's traditionally women more than men as far as being sex victims, the way that women react. And we know, for example, that in situations where there is no out, 2 or 3 children at home, no job, you can't get away, then there's a lot of sympathy given to those type of women victims. It's a little bit more cautious that the prosecution has to be to get across those expert witnesses to say, look, even in a good situation where there is a lot of money, there is opportunities, particularly with Miss Ventura, for example, where she had other possibilities to get away from the situation, yet didn't, that you have to be real careful that it's compelling testimony from the psychological experts that, look, victims are groomed to stay in the relationship. That happens a lot. And again, I think this prosecution's doing a decent job in getting that across with the experts. It's just there's a lot of dynamics to it.
It's interesting. They've also done it with other witnesses, right? I mean, I'm thinking of the former assistant who in many ways corroborated what we heard from Cassie Ventura saying, yes, this may sound like two different things happening at the same time, but let me tell you why, and backing up her testimony. To that point, when we look at the witnesses that the prosecution is bringing in, where does Mia fit into now in terms of the charges of racketeering, of trafficking that the prosecution is trying to prove?
So the trafficking, in order to get the trafficking conviction, you have to show that coercion, that duress, right? That not necessarily fraud in this case, but the way that Mr. Combs did everything he did for a particular purpose. So they bring in all of these witnesses, including Mia now, to say this is the environment that Mr. Combs is responsible for, and it was a environment of coercion, whether it's taking phones or doing this or threatening or actual sexual violence or physical violence or emotional and economic violence or force, another term that has to be used. We think about force and say, well, it's physical force. It's not. It's any type of force that has the effect of moving somebody towards a certain decision. Economic force, emotional force, that kind of stuff. And that, I think, is where Mia fits in, because she lays out that this was just the way it always was with me and with everybody that I saw with Mr. Combs.
Mark O'Meara, great to get your perspective. We'll see you again later this afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Sounds great.
Next, Ukraine pulling